Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This reminds me of temple. You've got to come early to get a seat in the back. It's great to be here with you once again. This is, as I say to Leslie, your punishment for the morning. Speaking of punishment, I'm thinking of my dad this morning because a number of years ago, many years ago now, Heather and I were with my parents. I think we were still living in South Africa at that time, and we were with my parents on a trip to Carmel, which we, of course, all love. And my father wanted to go to his favorite restaurant, or one of his favorite restaurants. And when we got there, he went inside, and the power had just gone off in the neighborhood. So he was very annoyed, very upset. So we went a couple of blocks away to, I guess, his second choice, and the power failure covered that area too. Then we went to a third place, and still he was unable to find the place that he wanted. And finally, as he was parking a car, a smaller car, kind of snuck in there, and he rolled the window down there, and he said, "You can go to hell, too," etc., etc. That was my father. Well, why do I share that little memory with you this morning? Because my father didn't understand something that I think a lot of us don't understand, and it's kind of interesting within Judaism. And as Meg said, when one looks at the weekly scripture, when Leslie invites me, I always look ahead to see what is the Torah portion for the week that I'm going to be here, and then try to pick a couple of verses for us to share this morning from that. And what do I learn from my father's behavior in response? His annoyance, his frustration with somebody who got into the parking space that he wanted to get into, was simply this, that what we learn is when someone commands us and someone guides us, as we are guided by the faiths and the religions and the belief systems that we have, it's even more meritorious than if we were to do these things spontaneously. Now, my father's response was spontaneous, but what the Torah was trying to teach is a lesson that's really universal. We resist being told what to do. We don't like to be told what to do. My father didn't like the fact that the power was off. He couldn't go to his restaurant and somebody got the parking space that he wanted, etc., etc. We resist those things because they're not at our choice. They're not our idea. So the rabbis interpreted behaviors by saying it's even more meritorious when we do what we're bid to do and behave as we're bid to behave, and even when we do it spontaneously without somebody pestering us or annoying us or telling us. Now, you might at first blush think, what in the world does that have to do with anything? And you'd probably be right in thinking it. But the fact of the matter is that most of us like to think when we come up with something, it's our idea. When we come up with something, it's not because somebody pestered us, annoyed us, reminded us, bid us, told us, or commanded us to do it. We do it because we think it's our idea. We want to do it. It's hard to overcome that and do as we are bid to do. And that's why we struggle in the universe. And that's why we struggle in our society to a significant degree. And it's why I would suggest to you that we seem to be so polarized. Because we don't like to be told what to do. Not by our governments, not by society, not by the culture, not by our families, not by our people in the workplace, not by our parents, not by our kids, etc., etc. We want to be, it's our choice and our idea. And that's one of the reasons why we find ourselves, I think, so polarized in our society. It's like the individual who comes to the clergy person and says, I have no friends. I don't seem to be able to relate to anybody. I don't seem to have any friends at all. And the clergyman said to this individual, come with me to my office window and look out and describe what you see. So he looked out and said, I see people walking, I see them talking arm in arm, they're going in and out of shops, they're doing this, they're doing that. I see people. And then the clergy person said, "Come with me," and he opened the closet door where his clerical robes were hanging. And he said, "What do you see on the back of that door?" He said, "I see a mirror." "Now what do you see?" He said, "I see myself. I only see me." And again, that was the problem, the clergy person said to him. "That's why you have no friends. As soon as the glass of the window is covered with a veneer of silver, you no longer see others, you only see yourself." And that in part is the way we are in the world. When we have a vested interest, we only see ourselves. We become polarized, unable to see the other person, the other perspective, the other idea, the other concept. And I think the first paragraph of these couple of verses that Meg read speaks to that. A matter of a pledge, or by robbery, or by deceiving the neighbor. How deceptive are we in our relationships? What do we share honestly and wholeheartedly of ourselves with each other? What are our goals? What are our aspirations in our behaviors? Well, now, as Holy Week begins, it's a time to turn inwards. It's a time for reflection. It's a time for understanding. The Passover is about to begin. These are themes of hope in the spring. These are themes of a chance to look inwards, to be introspective against the cacophony of the noise that we find in our daily lives, the confusion, the polarizations in families between people who don't want to be told what to do. Not by family members, not in the workplace, not in the school place, and not in government and society at large. And so we have a real challenge in terms of our behavior and how we can maximize the potential of what Easter will represent next Sunday for Christians, the idea of hope. And what Passover represents, the idea of hope. The idea of being able to find oneself in the context of those around one. Not to be isolated, but to be connected. It's like those old pieces of paper that come with a little fold and a little advice, not good if detached. And so it is with each of us. It's not good if we detach ourselves and our own sense of self-worth and self-importance. The phrase that comes to my mind is that from the sage Hillel, who said, and since you haven't heard any Hebrew this morning since at least breakfast time, let me at least share this with you. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? So let's take that apart for a moment. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? We all need a sense of self, a sense of self-worth, a sense of self-value. It's okay to have an ego. It's okay to have an identity. But if I'm only for myself, what am I? I'm self-absorbed. I'm self-indulged. I'm self-important. I'm only for myself, what am I? I'm estranged from those around me. So the first part of what Hillel was saying is, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? It's okay to know that I am who I am. But if I'm only for myself, I am who I am in isolation and estrangement from the world, the community, loved ones, family, and the possibilities of infinite hope. And if not now, when? Is the resonating thought of Easter or Passover, or whatever is shared between human beings at any time of the year. There's no better time than the now. The psychologists are examining us in our multitasking world and saying, the now, we're not even present half the time in the now. The studies most recently showed that most of us are living with our thoughts about the coulda, woulda, shouldas of the recent past, or what's going to happen next. And I guarantee you, the longer I talk, the more you're going to think about what's going to happen next. Will it soon be over? Rest assured it will. What's going to happen next? It's the next moment of potential and possibilities in your lives and in mine. It's like, again, one of my favorite stories of three sons who are going to potentially inherit the kingdom and the efforts that their father had made. And their father said, I need to figure out which of these sons should inherit. Let me go out and think of an idea. And as he was pondering, he looked out of his window and saw a mountain off in the distance that seemingly had never been climbed before. And so he challenged the first son and said, I want you to climb that mountain. And so the son said, sure, my father, to inherit, I'll climb the mountain. And he began to climb. But this was the kind of son who, to him, everything had to be fun. Life was all about fun without responsibility. And so in his preparations, he took a picnic basket. He took his favorite wine, nice things to eat. And as he climbed to the meadows of the mountain, he looked, it's beautiful, like now. The sun is out, the spring flowers are about. It's a time to enjoy. He lay back on the grasses, he drank the wine, he ate the food, he fell asleep. 3/4 of the way through the afternoon, he woke up, saw the mountain looming behind him, and realized he'd never get to the top to bring back proof that he had been there. He picked a few wildflowers, and when his father asked, as in the Torah portion, deceive, he said to my father, of course I've climbed the mountain. Look at the wildflowers I spread on your table to demonstrate the proof that I have been there. Father looked at his son and said, I'm very disappointed. Everything in you is about having fun. I'll bet you drank the wine, picked the flowers, ate the food, but climbed no further than that. You're not worthy of that inheritance. And so the second son set out. He was determined. He was an A-type, like so many of us. He was a pragmatist, like so many of us. And so as he began to climb the mountain, he climbed higher and higher. He climbed over boulders. He got cut. He got scratched. He fell and slipped in some of the loose rock along the way. But he realized as the day was going on, he'd never get to the top. And kind of in desperation, he grabbed a few pebbles, put them in a little pouch he had on his hip, brought them back. And when his father said, what proof do you have, my son, that you've reached the top of the mountain? He said, here, my father. And he poured the pebbles upon the desk. His father looked at his son and said, have you climbed to the top? Yes, my father, here's the evidence. And again, father said to son, you too are unworthy, because you've only thought about the pragmatic. You've only thought about bringing evidence that you can. I can see out my window there are no loose pebbles on the top of that mountain. You only got part of the way up. You reached an impasse. You realized the day was going on. And in desperation, you grabbed a few pebbles. How many of us live life that way? As time goes on, we need proof that we've made it, that we've accomplished, that we are who we would like to publicize we are. And at the end of the day, all we can pour forth are a few pebbles on the desk. The third son set out. He began to climb. And as he climbed, difficult as it was, out of breath as he was, he began to go higher and higher up the mountain, and there he saw a vista of potential. The little towns, the little villages, people looking smaller and smaller as he climbed higher and higher. He actually did reach the top of the mountain. He sat there and he meditated. He pondered. He thought, my goodness, just think if I were worthy to inherit this potential. Look at what I might do. Look what I can accomplish. Look what I can do to benefit other lives, other people. Indeed, he thought these thoughts. He was inspired. He meditated. And he thought ahead of what his vision could portray. When he came back to his father said, have you reached the top of the mountain, my son? Yes, I have. Well, what proof do you have? Proof? Well, show me. Give me some demonstration of what you brought. Proof? I don't have any proof. I don't have anything I can lay on the table. No wildflowers, no pebbles. There's nothing tangible I can give. All I can say to you, my father, is when I reached the top of the mountain, I thought of potential, and what I might accomplish, of what there is still yet to do. I completely forgot. I didn't even think of bringing back anything other than my dreams. Father turned to Son and said, indeed, you will be the one to inherit. Ladies and gentlemen, what kind of world do we inherit? What kind of world do we leave to our children and grandchildren? Is it a world of polarization? Is it a world that is fractured? Is it a world where we're thinking so much of the could-have, would-have, should-haves, or what's going to happen next? What kind of world estranges us from each other? What kind of a world do we want to leave to those who will follow us? What kind of a world do we want to live in every day? Those are the challenges of a holy week, of a holy moment. The blessings of hope at the end of it all. The potential of work, the challenge of what to do, of the example we can set, of the legacy of life we can give. Whether you call it Easter time or Passover time. We are redeemed for a purpose. And that purpose is not to live in estrangement with each other, so filled with our own sense of individual purpose. We can't even begin to talk to each other anymore, or understand that there are others with purpose too. Our challenge is to bread not just the civilians. It's easy to agree with people who agree with you. Our challenge is to bring forth, in a world of estrangement, the uniqueness of every human being, and weave it into a tapestry of hope that can cloak us in a legacy of life that will give us the opportunity to be a blessing to those around us and to create a better world. The word shalom, which we've all heard, means not only hello, goodbye, and peace, but its etymology, its origins, actually speak of completion and wholeness. You and I, when we're fractured, can never really be internally at peace. We're cut up inside. We're torn between conflicting influences, between conflicting personalities, between conflicting ambitions, etc. We need to work to bring the cacophony of our own being into the symphony of our own souls, and in so doing create, not only for ourselves, even for a fraction of a moment, the I got it feeling, the feeling of bringing it all together, of wholeness, completedness, and peace. This is our challenge, may the week ahead, for all of us,